Hi, I think I've got things right now. I've been working to get this set up for you. Let's get started on your homework for tonight, which is P18. I'm going to share my screen with you. I don't have an extra copy of the page that you have, but I am just going to work on a piece of paper. I have the problems right here next to me, but I just don't have a blank copy. So here we go. The first problem on your page says a gross is equal to 144 items. So I'm going to write down maybe the things that you coded. Maybe you circled that 144 and you boxed the items. A baker's dozen is equal to 13 items. So again, you may have circled and boxed for your coding. What is a reasonable estimate? So we're estimating, we don't have to find the true answer. We're finding a reasonable estimate for the number of baker's dozens in a gross. So let's see what we have. Just like in class, let's start with our equation. I have 144 divided by 13 equals n. We talked in class for estimating a quotient that we can change the divisor, we could change the dividend. We might have to change both. So when I look at this, I'm looking and they're not super compatible or friendly right now. So I would probably change this 13. I would probably round that down to 10. And then I could look at 144 divided by 10 equals n. And I could just look at this 14. So to make it compatible or work with the 10, what would I change that 14 to? I would probably just change it to a 10. It's close. 14 and 10 are close to each other. Remembering that anything outside of that box becomes a 0. And when we divide by 10, now we get that answer of 10. So a reasonable estimate for the number of baker's dozens in a gross, 10 baker's dozens in a gross. And that gross, that's a unit of measure, right? It's not like, ew, gross. All right. So if you did not have that, if you had something else, bring it to class tomorrow and let's talk about it and let's see what happens. Okay. The next one says Courtney earns $2,574 in 32 days. So I'm writing down the important information that you may have circled and boxed. She earns the same amount, that's important, each day. About how much does she earn each day? So again, that word about tells us we don't have to find the true answer, we're estimating. This time we're finding two reasonable estimates. So again, just like in class, let's set up the equation. 2,574 divided by 32 equals n. I want to make some compatible numbers. So I'm going to change my divisor. I'm going to make that a 30. And then I have 2,574 divided by 30. Let's see what happens. I'm going to box that 25. And I'm going to think of my simple facts. So I just want to think of 3 times what gets us close to 25. So if I have to come up with 2 reasonable estimates, 3 times what is close to 25? You might be thinking 3 times 8 equals 24. That's close to 25. 3 times 9 equals 27. That's close to 25. So our 2 reasonable estimates would be about how much does she earn each day. I'm going to start with this one. Let's do the 24. And then outside the box, we make zeros divided by 30 equals. Here we have Zeros in the ones place. 24 divided by 3 is going to equal 8. Add that extra 0. She makes about $80. Let's do the other one. Instead of changing the 25 to 24, let's make it a 27. 27 divided by 30 equals, cancel your zeros. 3 times 9 equals 27. So 27 divided by 3 equals 9. We add that 0. She makes about $80 or $90 each day. All right. The last one that's at the top of your page that goes along with our lesson, we have to decide if Benil is correct when he says dividing 8,951 by 91, when he estimates, will his answer be a 3-digit number? So if we are looking for compatible numbers and we think, well, it's 8,951 divided by 94. So let's think about this for a moment. If we're using those compatible numbers, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work. I'm changing that divisor to 90. So now when I look at the front of my problem, I want to think of my simple multiplication. 9 times what gets me close to 89? 9 times 9 equals 81, or 9 times 10 equals 90. So which one is a better choice? 89 is closer to 90. So we're going to change our dividend to 9,000, and that's going to equal 100. Now, that is a 3-digit number, but the actual quotient, let's go back to our original problem. I had 94 and I adjusted my quotient down. So does that mean my equal groups at the end are going to be more or less? They're going to be more because I have fewer in the each group, so there's going to be more. My dividend is also greater. So if we're thinking about the actual quotient, we would need to think about that. 8,951 is less than 9,000, and 90 is less than 94. So because of those two things, we're right at 100. Our quotient is going to be less than this. So I would say it's not reasonable for those reasons, because we're right, we just barely made it to a 3-digit number. So I would say it's not reasonable. Sorry, Benil. All right. For the spiral review, we talked a little bit about the distributive property, not a lot. And this problem wants us to use the distributive property. I'm okay if you can find an answer without using it. We'll talk more in class about the distributive property and how it can be used. So don't let that throw you off. Let's just see what's happening here. A coach forms 5 teams. I'm going to pull out the important information that you are circling and boxing. He made 5 teams for 80 volleyball players. The question says to find the number. It's not a question. It just says to find the number of players on each team. So we know that there are 80 players, and we need to divide them up into 5 teams. So if you can do just the traditional dividing, 5 goes into 8 one time. 5 times 1 equals 5. I subtract, bring down the 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 5 times 6 equals 30. Our answer is 0. So the question, or we were asked to find the number of players on each team, 16 players on each team. So if you can do this part, fantastic. We'll talk more about the distributive property in class this year. Don't stress out about that. The last one for spiral review. Anaya arranges 378 shells into 18 equal rows. That's important, right? Equal rows. When we're dividing, we want them to be equal. This is for a science display. How many seashells in each row? So let's set up this division equation, 378 shells that she is dividing into 18 equal rows, right? So I'm looking at 18. 18 cannot go into 3. 18 can go into 37. How many times? 18 goes into 37 2 times, which equals 36. I subtract and I have 1. I bring down my 8. 18 goes into 18 1 time. When we subtract, we have 0. How many seashells in each row? 21 seashells. All right, and that is it for your homework. I hope you're feeling successful. If you have any questions, please bring them to our class tomorrow, and we'll go over any questions you have or talk about how the homework was for you. I will see you then. Bye.